Knicks Nation, what is going on? It's your boy David from Top Bunk Sports. The New York Knicks defeat the Washington Wizards 132 to 101. A must-win game, in my opinion. I know people are kind of like, it's not must-win because of the fact that they're the Washington Wizards, da-da-da. But this is a game that you have to take care of business. This Washington Wizards team is very, very, scrappy, right? They're young. Said it in my last post-game video for the Los Angeles Lakers game that this is a team that's going to pick this game up and they're going to look at this game as a game where they can possibly play their best basketball, right? Trying to send a message to a top contending team in their conference. So you want to be able to use this game not only to, prevent that, but also use this game to just try to just continue to build on your chemistry, right? Be able to take advantage of a team that doesn't really play good defense and be able to go ahead and just really dominate. Not much else, man. The New York Knicks come into Washington and they handle business, and some good stats from a couple of the players. I think today was a more beautiful team game, right? It was more of a game where everybody got involved. Guys were making the extra passes. Guys were being aggressive and just building on momentum. And I think that's the more important thing when it comes to this team. And you come into today's game, you take advantage of the fact that you're not playing a team with aggression, a team that's putting the pressure on anything that you do, right? You can handle this team with no problem whatsoever. You look at the guys like even Cat, right? Cat came into question. You didn't know what you were gonna get from him. You didn't know what type of game that was gonna be from him. And Clyde mentioned it before the game even started that the last time the Knicks played the Wizards in Washington, Cat had 33 points against Alex Sara, who is their best player. He's their best center. So, you come into this game, you're looking for another dominant performance from Cat, and we saw a couple good aggressive moves from Karl-Anthony Towns. We did. We look into the stats for the Knicks tonight. They shot 47 and 89 from the field. That is 52%. They were 17 of 37 from three. That was 45%. So they were shooting pretty effective from the three-point line. Then you look at your free throws, 77%. The Knicks have been a much better free throw shooting team. They had only nine turnovers as a team. Nine. They had 10 turnovers last game against the Lakers. They had 9 today. So they have been taking care of the basketball much better as of recent. And again, in a game like this, straight clean basketball. No problems whatsoever, right? Only 9 turnovers, that's fine. The whole game, that's impressive. 49 rebounds, 34 assists as a team, 5 blocks, 41 defensive rebounds, only 8 offensive rebounds. You had 54 points in the paint, 16 points off of turnovers. That's another key thing. 18 fast break points, and then you had 9 second chance points, 6 steals as a team. You look at their first quarter. They were 13 of 22, 7 of 13 from three. They shot 59% from the field, while they shot 53% from three. They only had 1 turnover the entire quarter. They had 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 blocks, 11 defensive rebounds, only 2 offensive rebounds. So that's a beautiful first quarter. You look at the second quarter, 11 to 22. They were 5 of 11 from three, right? So a little less, but they were still efficient, right? They were 50% from the field, only 45% from three. They had 3 turnovers, right? So a little bit more turnovers on this quarter than the first quarter. But then you have 14 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 block, 11 defensive rebounds. But being more efficient, right? Being more efficient, that's what you love to see. And then in that third quarter was kind of the same thing. They didn't really shoot that much threes. But again, staying efficient, being able to really work their way in the entire game. And then in that fourth quarter, they kind of slacked off just a little bit, but they were up by a lot. And within that quarter, it kind of worked. But they, again, shooting 57% 53% from the field, made 17 turnover, 3-pointers, 6 steals, like I said, as a team, and it was very efficient. Only person the only two guys to go negative, well, only three, was Jordan Clarkson, I think, what's his name? Damian Jones, his full name? Dylan Jones, that's the new kid that we just picked up. And then obviously I think it was Trey Jameson. So, they were only ones going negative, but everybody else played exceptionally well. Very, very good. Mikal Bridges had 23 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. He had 2 blocks. He was a plus 23 in point differential, right? Then Karl Anthony Towns, 19 points, 14 rebounds, continues to dominate on the board. He had 3 assists, 2 steals. He was a plus 30, so you love to see the efficiency from Karl Anthony Towns. Jalen Brunson, 21 points. He had 1 rebound, 4 assists, 2 steals. He was plus 32 in point differential, and he got the defensive player of the game from Mike Brown, which is amazing. It's his first one of the season. OG Anunoby continuing his hot momentum. 19 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. OG Anunoby, again, 3 of 6 from 3. He was 4. He was good at the line, 4 or 5. Guys just contributing all the way through. There's really nothing much to say about this game tonight. The New York Knicks were able to come in here and dominate like they needed. It was a beautiful game, to say the least. I mean, like I said, you look at their team, team stat, the team stat, well, not team stats, but also game stats. Only, like I said, only 9 turnovers, 49 rebounds, 34 assists as a team. They had 5 blocks, 41 defensive rebounds, only 8 offensive rebounds, 16 points off of turnovers compared to the 8 points off of turnovers from the Wizards. So they cook. Then you're talking about 54 points in the paint. You had 18 fast break points. 9 second chance points. They had 6 steals, and then the fouls, they were equal, 22-22. But again, just dominating completely. They went on 2 separate runs. They went 21-7 run from the very moment of the first quarter up into the 5-minute mark of the first quarter. Then they went on a 19-2 run from the 8-minute mark in the second quarter to the 5-minute mark of the fifth quarter of the second quarter. 5-minute mark of the second quarter. Wizards only had 1 run, and that was literally within the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. That was a 13-4 run. That was it. That was literally it. Again, domination from the moment. The Knicks led almost all of the quarters besides the third. Third quarter was 30-30. But that was it. That was literally it. That was nothing much to really say. The New York Knicks dominate. The New York Knicks, did what they needed to do. I'm gonna show you guys some highlights just so you guys can see it. Again, there's a lot. There's a lot that happened within this Knicks game. That was happening. There's a lot to touch on. I was on Eddie Presti's Knicks edition post game live, and we kind of spoke about it. The Cleveland Cavaliers traded for James Harden. They sent Darius Garland in the second round pick. That one right there. I'll give that one an opinion in a minute. Just give me a second. I just want to show you guys some highlights, and then obviously we'll get to Mike Brown's post game stuff that we'll see here. And you look at some highlights here. I didn't really post much of the highlights, man, because I just kind of knew in a way how this game was gonna go. I mean, it could have gone a whole different way, but I'm just saying. Again, some nice highlights here. Most of the highlights came in the first and second quarter. I didn't really post much of the second half just because of that. But yeah, you see right here, OG Anunoby picking up where he left off, and I kind of straight number. Looking at right here, Mohamed Diawara before he got hurt, man. Give me that. Thank you. Easy. Crossover. And then he proceeds to hit a 3 for his next point. Easy. This kid, the confidence on this kid is very, very beautiful to see. I love this kid. He's really grown. And you're talking about in a situation where usually kids like that, they grow better when they're on a team that doesn't, how do I say it? That doesn't that is not contending, right? And when they're not contending and you're just a team that is trying to build within their young guys, this is what you're going to get productions like that, because these young guys are not only trying to develop, but they're trying to prove something. He has came in a pressure situation with a team that is trying to contend and that's trying to win a championship, and he has filled his role pretty comfortably, and you love to see that. It is sad, it did hurt that he did get hurt. I just use that in the same sentence, but it sucked that he did get hurt, because he was playing so well, and you like the fact that the confidence was up there. And again, I've said this on numerous occasions. Mike Brown doesn't utilize his bench that much, and this is kind of why you're seeing Jordan Clarkson going through what he's going through. You don't really see much of Ariel Hectordy. You don't see much of Diawara. Hell, you don't see much of Trey Jameson, and I think Trey Jameson has done a good job whenever he gets minutes in impactful moments. So you don't see that, and I think you need to start seeing that more if you want to go ahead and you want to win a championship. You need to start utilizing your bench, and this is kind of why I think whether they go the route of trying to trade for a Jose Alvarado, or they try to go trade for the dude from San Antonio, colored hair dude. I keep forgetting his name. I don't know why, but if you trade for those guys, those are guys that give you something offensively. They impact the game offensively, and that's the most important thing, right? This is they give you such an upgrade, and they give you such a boost on the bench that you can take those risks, and you can go in there and you can, and again, you can utilize your bench much better. However, to me, it's like, what does Jordan Clarkson do that hurts you so bad? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a guy, and I'll continue to bring this up. I don't care what anybody has to say. This is a guy that is a six man of the year. This is a guy that is a veteran, right? So he's played with the Los Angeles Lakers. He's played with the Utah Jazz when the Utah Jazz were trying to make the playoff. We're making the playoffs with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and Joe Ingles and Mike Conley. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's been there. He's been that vet to do something off the bench. And now you bring him here for that purpose. It's a bench upgrade. It's one of the best bench upgrades that they could have possibly done in the offseason. So for him to be that and then not to play, to me, it's kind of it's confusing in a way. It really is. But again, he was playing tonight. But I only feel like the only reason he was playing was because of Diawara getting hurt and not having not having Deuce McBride. So you're gonna need to at least get some other guys off the bench to really do something. And I think it kind of sucks that where he could be playing, like, I think tomorrow is a game where he needs to play. You're not playing around with a team in Denver who's kind of struggled just a little bit. Jokic, I think, is coming off an injury, so they're trying to find their footing, they're trying to find their pace, but at the same time, you don't want to just go in there and not play the guys that you need to play. You need to play your bench. That's just the honest fact. You need to play your bench. And at the end of the day, if you're not going to play your bench, if you're not going to go in there, you're not going to, try to make something happen, then, what's the point? What's the point of even trying to have guys like this? You might as well, if you really don't like Jordan Clarkson's game, you might as well trade him. And I'm not even joking. So you're hoping that with a Jordan Clarkson, if they can utilize him more, and they can utilize Diawara more when he comes back, they could utilize a Trey Jameson, they could utilize Tyler Kolek even more, which he's been playing more minutes. If you can utilize those guys even more, right? And Kolek's another one. When Kolek is not creating turnovers, when Kolek is doing what he needs to do, he's so efficient. This kid's game is so underrated. This is why me especially, was so happy when we drafted him, because you look what he's done in Marquette. This guy's a very fast-paced guard. This guy can facilitate. This guy can shoot the three ball when he needs to. He's very aggressive. It's just his IQ and the turnovers that hurt him a little bit. This is why fans be like, yo, Kolek ain't that guy. But when he's on, he's on. Nobody really has anything to say about Tyler Kolek when he's on. It's only when he's doing bad. And those, you can hold him accountable for those, because he needs to be held accountable for that. But at the same time, it's like, you see what he does when he's on, when he's comfortable, when he's getting everybody involved, when the momentum is on his side. You're seeing that. So you love to see that consistently. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to our bench use, if you're gonna go out there, you're gonna get yourself a guy that's gonna be used all the time, and you're gonna use him properly. Do it. If not, if you're gonna ride out with this bench, which I don't think is a good issue considering the trades that all the other East teams in our conference have made, and based on how sometimes our stars can be inconsistent, and you might need some help from your bench, you need to upgrade. And if you're not gonna do that, utilize Jordan Clarkson. Whether he's a defensive liability or not, utilize him because he does bring something to this team. And I honestly do agree with that. I really do. But back into the highlights just for a little bit. Again, I'll cut my thing short and then obviously get into the trades that were happening. But, I spoke about, Diawara. I mean, I spoke about the first quarter when it was done. And I gave Mike Brown props for the Jordan Clarkson thing. I said Jordan Clarkson in the game. But here is one of my favorite things right here. And I think it's very, very, very good to see. You're seeing it right here. I said cat straight to the rack, and this is what you want.
Goes right back to the post on Bagley. Scores again. Plus the
Towns trying to work on Bagley.
Consistent Karl Anthony Towns. You want to see a cat that is going to be a difference maker. You want to see a cat that is going to do whatever he needs to do to utilize his scoring. This is what we need from Cat, right? This is what we need from Karl Anthony Towns. It's not just a facilitating. And you absolutely love the fact that he's facilitating the basketball because that's one part of his game that he's always shown he could do. But it's the one part of his game that got him out of this funk within the 7-game winning streak that we have going on. Right? This is probably what Mike Brown was alluding to. Like, listen, Mike Brown is not all about ISO. He has said that from the moment that he became the head coach of the New York Knicks. He hasn't said it in that way, but it's based on how you've seen him coach. He's not about ISO. He's about making sure that the ball is moving and we're finding easier and better open shots when the ball is moving. And that's the type of coach that he is. And at times you would take an effect that Cat sometimes may not be scoring as much because of that. Right? But Mike Brown is basically saying, yo, you're going to get the matchups that you want. You're going to find your way to score if you just move the basketball. Just move it. That's all that it is. Follow my system. And as you move the basketball, the ball comes to you. That's one thing like Steve Kerr has said. Shout out to Draymond, who mentioned this in the JJ Redick podcast when he did his interview a couple years ago. He said that when they were first trying to buy in to the Steve Kerr system back in 2014, 2015, there were moments where instead of passing to a wide open Curry or a wide open Clay or whatever, they were at times where like not even that. There were just times where like, they would make the extra pass or whatever, and they, Draymond would be like, you don't really need to. And I think I got it wrong. I think it was one of those where it was like, make the extra pass and find the wide open guy. Right, instead of having to create the shot on your own and sometimes force it. He was always saying like, the ball will find you. And I think it's not necessarily what Mike Brown is probably telling him. It's probably what he learned under Mike Brown. Remember, because he was an assistant coach under Mike Brown for the Golden State Warriors. Mike Brown has a ring as an assistant coach for the Golden State Warriors. So it's probably one of those things that he's probably had told Mike Brown. And Mike Brown, again, has taken that under his thing. I mean, he's been a head coach before Steve Kerr, but he's learned so much from Steve Kerr as well. Just, adding his experience plus what Steve has told him and has taught him, and he's utilized that with Cat. He's probably a lot of things that he's told Cat that's probably worked. So, and at the same time, they found ways to finally get Cat engaged, found ways to have Cat, play better. And you're seeing that now. Of course, you still want his 3-ball to fall 100%, right? But those things come in with time because of the fact that teams are trying to get him off of the 3-point line. They know that at times when he's driving into the paint, there are times where he takes a risk causing an offensive foul, and teams are going to live with that because they know there's a good chance it's going to happen. Where if you give him space behind the 3-point line at times and you don't pressure up your defense, he's going to try to shoot you out the game, and most likely it will happen. So, there are different schemes for Karl Anthony Towns, and he probably understands that, which is why the facilitating comes first and the scoring, and it's working. It's not only working for him, but it's working for the entire fucking team. and they found the rhythm. And again, they're on a 7-game winning streak. So, you got to kudos to him, kudos to Mike Brown. They probably had a conversation about everything, and it's working so far. So you like to see that. And again, like I said, it's the Washington Wizards. I understand it, but you want to be able to not only win these games when you need to, right? You got to dominate, but you also got to win these games. But be able to work on the little things that you normally don't do, which is your chemistry, which is just making sure let's sharpen up our ball movement against a bad defensive team, and let's just try to get better. Because now, another thing that we don't really talk about is the fact that the only guy to play 30 minutes tonight was Jalen Brunson. He played 31. Everybody else played in the 20-minute range. OG Anunoby, 27 minutes. Karl-Anthony Towns, 26 minutes. Josh Hart, 22 minutes. Mikal Bridges, 26 minutes. Trey Jameson, only 9. Dylan Jones, only 9. Mohamed Diawara, only 4 minutes. But remember, he ended up getting hurt. Aria Hakporti, 22 minutes. Right, he was a +1 in point differential. Jordan Clarkson, 21 minutes. Elijah Shamet, 21 minutes. Yabusele, 21 minutes. Sorry, not Yabusele, excuse me. Tyler Kolek, 21 minutes. So, again, everybody should be well rested for tomorrow's game against Denver. That is a big, big game. And I'm excited because, like I said, every time the Knicks play Denver, it's always a back and forth, and they always play well against Denver. So I'm hoping that this team that we have right now is going to do the same thing. I know the Jokic and Cat matchup is going to be a good one to watch. But in terms of my Knicks, 7-game win streak, took care of business against the Washington Wizards, and now you have a big game tomorrow. You're back home, so now you're well rested, and you're back home. You're back home to play one of the top teams in the Western Conference that you have proven to beat before. So now let's go out there, let's extend this winning streak, and let's keep this momentum going because now we're playing really good basketball. But that being said, let's get straight into what I wanted to talk about. Like I said before, shout out to Sharanya, who's been covering all the trades, right? You saw that a lot of the teams in the East made moves. They, the Detroit Pistons traded Jaden Ivey to the Chicago Bulls. You saw the Bulls trade. The Bulls were active tonight. You saw the Bulls trade Vucevic to the Celtics for Anthony Simons. And then you're seeing this trade with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Los Angeles Clippers. They traded James Harden to the Cavs for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. You go back to Detroit. I think Detroit just needs more shooting, in my opinion, which is why they kind of gave up Ivy. Ivy's a really good defender, so it was kind of shocking to me on that one. However, when it comes to the Bulls need more guard shooting. Need more guards on that team, right? They've been trying to get rid of Vucevic for the last 2 to 3 seasons. They haven't found the right package, and they finally did that. They sent them to a contending team, which is probably good for Vucevic. He's probably feeling good about that because now he's playing on a much better team. But within the Celtics needed a big. It's been reported that they were talking to the Clippers about a Zubac. They didn't agree to it. They gave him the same deal that they gave to Cleveland for Garland. They gave to the Clippers and excuse me, what am I talking about? Well, yeah, they gave to the Clippers. Yeah, the Celtics gave it to the Clippers. The Clippers said no. Then they went the route of Chicago, and they got Vucevic. So they got a center that they need. They needed a much needed center, and they got that. But they also got a guy that has a decent floater, a guy that can shoot the 3-ball when he wants to, but a guy that can space the floor out really well. So shout out to the Celtics. I think that's gonna be an interesting thing for the Celtics. I'm not scared of them, but they're still in third place. They're still trying to compete. And they're with the situation of Jason Tatum maybe coming back. That might be something that's why they made that trade. But then you look at the Cavs. You're trying to find out what can they do to really contend and really stay strong. They're realizing that Darius Garland has been up and down with injuries. And then, and they're looking at one guy that already has came out and said, yo, if you guys are not going to keep me, if there's nothing in the future for me within you guys, can you guys just please trade me? They had probably had a mutual conversations, and then it was reported by Shams and Chris Haynes from who's another inside reporter that they were working with him to find them a better landing spot, and they did. They sent them to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers get better offensively, but they get worse defensively. Donovan Mitchell does not play defense, nor does James Harden. However, it is two ball dominant backcourt guards, right, that need the ball to score at all times. The funny thing about this, though, and this is kind of where I had to do more digging because I didn't really know. James Harden is third in the league when it comes to assists. He's higher than Darius Garland with an assist. They upgrade on that factor. So in my tweet right here that I want to show you guys, right? Because I think I should take this I could have said this a little bit better if I did my research, but in the tweet right here, I basically said definitely got better offensively, but they're taking a big hit defensively. A backcourt of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell can be lethal depending on who's going to be a little bit less ball dominant and a bit more of a facilitator, but I could be wrong. Both can gel just by scoring. Absolutely, right? James Harden loves to score the basketball. He's a scoring guard. At the same time, right, you want to make sure that the weapons that you have in Cleveland, that you're going to be able, since he's going to be bringing up the ball and it's going to be something that could work, right? James Harden was 35, 36, and he's still scoring at that. You look at his numbers. I'll actually put them up right here just so everybody can see. You look at his numbers, and James Harden right now, I'll share this right here so you guys can see it. James Harden right now is, you can look at the stats right now, he's literally scoring 25 points per game. 16th in the league, not that bad. He again, the rebounds, that's whatever. But again, assists, look at the assist numbers. 8.1 assists per game. That's third in the league. That, if you're gonna need Donovan Mitchell just his scoring, and you got and James Harden can facilitate, that right there is key for the Clippers to do what they, not for the Clippers, excuse me, for the Cavaliers to do what they need to do scoring wise, and really trust on Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, who are your defensive juggernauts, to really do something and help and shield James Harden and Donovan Mitchell defensively, so they can be the offensive juggernauts that they can be to make you a much better team. And I think that's what they're looking at. However, the Clippers, on the other hand, the Clippers get themselves Darius Garland, who's a fast guard, who can shoot the three ball, who can pass the ball when he needs to, facilitate. And I always use that word facilitate because that's just what it is when it comes to guards, especially. But a young kid, a young guy that they could kind of build off of and try to compete within the play. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's where they're at. But you look at the standings right now, and this is where Cleveland's at. Cleveland's fifth, so they're trying to stay within this or try to move up. And I think, again, right here, of course we're tied with Boston, right? We're gonna be tied with Boston. That's gonna be the nature of everything. But again, everything is so close. And understand, the more scoring that Cleveland does, the better that they get. And I wouldn't be surprised if the 1 through 4 is Cleveland, Boston, Knicks, and Pistons. Then it's obviously going to be Toronto and Philadelphia fighting for that spot. Toronto could be 6 by the time you know it. You know what I'm saying? Because then you look at the play, you got Miami, you got Orlando, you got the Hawks who might stay in there, and then you got the Bulls. Again, the Bulls are trying to do something to where they're still trying to stay in the play-in, but you got the Hornets who are right behind them. They're like on a 7-game winning streak, I think. Let me see. Yeah, 7-game winning streak. They won tonight. Like they're trying to make that play, and that's the difference within this Hornets team. And I said this in the very beginning when I started joining Eddie consistently, because Eddie had asked me a question in terms of what's a team that you can see make like can shock anybody, and I said the Charlotte Hornets. You got LaMelo Ball, right? And I know people kind of have their questions on LaMelo Ball. I understand it. I get it. LaMelo Ball has, he's not that strong-minded. He's very freely, you can't trust him in certain situations, but the kid could score. The kid can break down his defender and get to the basket and shoot the three ball. That's what Charlotte is feeding off of. They're feeding off of him. Everybody else, they're feeding off of him and Brandon Miller. When those two go off, everything is better, and this is why you're seeing why they're winning. And then they got the Knipple, right? Knipple, one of the best young 3-point shooters in the league right now. They have that. So with them winning games based off of that, if Chicago don't get their shit together, they're screwed, man. They could drop out, and we could see Charlotte in the play-in. You know, it could work. Not saying that they're gonna win the whole thing, and that's again, I'm not saying that, but at the same time, you know, they can sneak up and take that play-in spot. So, you know, this is gonna be a toss up, but I think right here is where you're gonna see that maybe Miami's gonna leave, maybe they don't. We'll see. But again, this is why these trades are being happening. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because it ties back into the Knicks. I was done doing the post game for itself, but in a conversation within the Knicks, it ties in with the Knicks. Why? Because now you're Leon Rose and you're sitting there and you're like, damn, okay. All the trades that happened today, there was only one trade that happened for the West, and that was literally Jaren Jackson going to the Utah Jazz for a bunch of young players that the Utah had, and they sent them to Memphis. I think Memphis is done. I think Memphis knows that they got to trade Ja. I think Memphis is done, right? I think Memphis is done. I mean, where's Memphis right now within the standing? Let's go down to the West. Memphis is out the play-in right now. They're 19 and 29. They're done. Unless they take that leap over Portland, I think Portland makes the play-in. I think this right here is how it'll stay. But they're gonna trade Ja, and then they could build from there. They could definitely build from there. I will say this though. The reason why this is so important, I'm talking about just the trades that happen in the East. The reason why this is so important for Leon Rose is because every trade that happened today made those teams better. The Detroit Pistons, it didn't move them, right? You got rid of a good defender in Jaden Ivey. It didn't move them, right? It didn't move them. They'll still stay good. They'll still stay in first place. However, Boston upgraded because they got for the qualities that I've mentioned when it came to Vucevic, they got better because not only did they get their center, but they got a center who's a solid rebounder, who can stretch the floor and who can shoot the ball at times consistently when he needs to, when he wants to. Then you're talking about a Cleveland Cavaliers team who, yes, they took a dip defensively, but they got better offensively, and that's the scary part. Every trade that happened today made the teams better. So when you're the New York Knicks and you have to deal with a Detroit Pistons team that's already good and they're leading the league at number 1 in the Eastern Conference, then you're talking about a Boston Celtics team who's right behind you. That's the question in itself. What are you going to do to keep yourself at number 2, but also be better, so that way when the playoffs come, you know that player is a difference maker? And right now, they really can't do anything about it because personally, for me, I don't necessarily think that they're going to get Giannis because Giannis, not even that, Giannis wants it. I mean, Giannis wants to leave. Of course, he already informed them that he wants to go. But if I'm the Bucks, it's one of the best players in the league, and he's my best player. I need to get as much as I can from him. If I don't, I'm not going to trade him. That's also why I think they're going to trade him in the offseason, because they could get even more than what they can now for Giannis. So the Knicks package, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because, you know, like Sean, I mentioned this in my last video when I was talking, not in the last one, but the one before that, where I was talking about Giannis. Shams Charania already reported what the Bucks wanted. They want a young primary player, and they want draft picks. You could say young primary players is what we have, but they want draft picks. Why? Because they understand that, we unfortunately might not make the playoffs, but that's good to build in the draft. And if we get these draft picks, and then when the draft comes in July and we could build on these draft picks, we'll be solid again. You know, it's a good way to kind of hit the retool button or the restart, depending on how they look at it. So that's why they want a lot of draft picks. And again, the Knicks don't have that. We tied ourselves with having the McHale deal. You know, we could have had at least 7 picks altogether if we didn't trade for McHale, because remember, they get two picks in the summer, but that's it. That's it. However, the teams like Minnesota, teams like Golden State, teams like OKC, teams like the Detroit Pistons, they got young guys and they got picks. So they can trade for Giannis if they want to. Those guys have what the Bucks want. We don't. So we either take our chances with giving up the 2 picks that we'll get in the summer and giving up either a Cat, a OG, a McHale, or a Deuce McBride for that matter, and get Giannis and then let his chemistry build with Jalen Brunson from the start, which would be much better. Or you don't. You miss out on him. You try to get somebody else in free agency. With that at the moment I can't think of, right? But in the trade deadline that's coming up in 2 days, you go get yourself a bench piece that is gonna not only bring you something defensively, but that can also score. You know, and The one person for me that does that, but maybe not the scoring part, but again is an anchor defensively, and he could move move the pace, and he's a good energy guy, is Jose Alvarado. And Jose Alvarado is gonna love, and he's gonna have something to play for. One, because he knows he's playing for a contending team, and he's back home. He's from New York. He's from the Bronx. So how that factors in, I think it would be very important to see how that plays in. There's other factors that could play in too, but I think because their name has been involved with Jose Alvarado for so much, it would work. And I think they could get that done. You leave the starting rotation the way it is, let these guys gel, let the chemistry continue to build, because they've already shown what they could do last year. Let's do it again, and let's add to the bench, because it doesn't seem like Mike Brown is playing certain guys, unless he is, which you can still upgrade and even be a more better bench. But you need depth for your bench in order if you want to compete. That being said, guys, that is your Knicks on top post game. Once again, the New York Knicks dominate the Washington Wizards 132-101. The Knicks have an important game tomorrow at the Garden against the Denver Nuggets. So it's going to be a very good game. They're going to play for more. And they should be good in terms of the minutes that they played, because they played very low minutes compared to what they usually play. So they should be well rested and energized for tomorrow's game. With that being said, again, once again, it's a Knicks on top post game. Knicks versus Wizards. I am your guy David from Top Bunk Sports. Make sure you guys like this video, share, and subscribe to the Top Bunk Sports YouTube channel. And make sure you guys follow me on all other social media platforms at Top Bunk Sports on X, Instagram, and TikTok. I will catch you guys on the next video. Till then, peace out, and let's go Knicks.